Hello, Scott.
Hey, Gerrard, is it?
Yes, mate. How you doing?
I'm well. How you going today?
Good, buddy.
That's good.
Yeah.
I hear we're talking about cost of living. What's on your mind?
Well, I just responded to that. I got the inquiry, and I don't know. I started. It just struck a chord with me. Probably, you get these notices or what do you call them, emails and stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and I thought, oh, I'll make a few comments. And then when I started writing, I just kept going.
So,
When I read it, I thought, God, that's not a comment. That's more like a parable.
so what's your parable about cost of living? Where are you at with it?
Well, mate, I'm 65, and I've been a small businessman for my adult life.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the most frustrating thing out of the whole gambit, it's easy to pick on one or two things. But when I reread what I wrote to you, what struck a chord with me was the fact that it all boils down to what's happening in Canberra on our parliamentary floor.
Sure.
I I don't lead a very interesting life, so every now and again I watch the Parliament live on the various YouTube channels that you can get it on.
Sure.
And hand on heart, I can't think of the last time either the government or the opposition actually talked about what the average Australian household is dealing with.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I
That's
think it's
that's the troubling factor.
well, it is, and I think there's a lot of talk around it, isn't there? But there's not actually much talk about it specifically and what it actually means for the individual person, and nonetheless, what they can actually do about it.
Yeah, it's nearly the language they speak is. Uh, you sound a lot younger than me, but when I was at high school, we read a book. I think it was Brave New World, or might have been 1984. We had to do both of them for the HSC, I think. Anyway, they
What
had a
George
term
Orwell,
called double
1984.
speak. Yeah, George Orwell did 1984,
So you had to read that at
and
school.
yeah, and then and that was sort of like the dark. That was sort of the darker version of the future.
Yeah,
This is sitting back in the mid '70s, so to
I've
speak,
got that book. Yep.
right? But there was another one called Brave New World, and it was more of a positive outlook for the future. But we were, well, they call it now the New World Order. That's the terminology they use. They've been throwing that around. They've been throwing that around since the League of Nations was started. But there was a term in there called double speak,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and I think that's what our parliamentarians are very good at: double speak.
they
They say
seem
a
to
lot,
be.
but nothing really gets done.
Yeah.
And apart from a few independents, um, there's apart from a few independents, there's no one really passionate about it.
Okay, so as someone who's run a business for a long period of time, such as yourself, and we get to sit from the sidelines and watch these men and ladies do whatever they do in politics. If you had the opportunity and you were in there, what would be some of the things that you'd like to see happen, or what would be some of the things that you'd like to do?
All right, if I had like the wish list,
Yeah.
if I had a wish list, I'd start with our 4 savings banks.
Yep.
Um, I would have branches reopened. I would have bank managers returned,
Yes.
just for a start, and I'd certainly have a very close look at the fees that they charge. The next, I'd go straight to ASIC. I'd sack everybody who works at ASIC and start again. There, I follow a fellow called John Adam, some of the work that he's doing at the moment or over the last 4 years, absolutely frightening. Some of the things that ASIC gets away with.
Yeah.
They're not a regulator. They don't act in the interests of.
They're a law unto themselves in a lot of regard that I hear on the grapevine. And you're not the only person who has those feelings about ASIC. Some of the people that talk to me quite strongly about it. So, yeah, you're not Pat Malone.
Yeah, it's. I know it's easy to always point a finger and say, "Oh, they're doing it wrong" or whatever. But we have a situation where seriously large corporations, big business houses making really good profits from a good, stable economy that Australia is, albeit it's a small economy, but these big companies sell us stuff and they make good money.
Sure.
And then they've got the hide to go and, register themselves with the post box over in Singapore and pay 2.5% or 3% company tax.
Yeah.
And our ATO has got its hands tied behind its back because the politicians haven't got the balls to actually do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, it's this common thread that seems to be going through a lot of people's discussions, either, in the public domain or even private discussions. And that is the unequal weighting, I guess, or the lack of fairness in the system, for want of a better word. And I think that you bang on how you feel about that, because you're not the only one. What would you be able to do for cost of living, though? Like, yeah, I agree with you on these things. Like the banks, do they need more regulation or not? Who knows? But ASIC and those other government departments. But let's get to the crux of the matter. What would you like to see done with the cost of living if you had the power to do something about it?
I'd like to see Australia start. I don't know if you use the word mining or whether you getting the oil out of the ground and be self-sufficient.
Yes.
We have the resources. It's just a matter of digging it up.
Yeah.
In past decades we did. Today we go to our local petrol pump and we pay $2 a litre, and the powers that be tell us, aren't we good, because it's down from $2.50 for a litre of fuel.
Yeah, and look, that's a big one, right? I mean, the fuel is still a big issue, even with the adoption of EVs and stuff.
Australia is a land we've got the tyranny of distance.
Yeah,
and we've got a crappy public transport system. Doesn't matter which city you're in. Everybody relies upon vehicles, whether it's to commute to work. Like I'm down here in the Illawarra at the moment, and I was reading a report a couple of weeks ago. Nearly half of the Illawarra's half of the Illawarra's workforce travel to Sydney every day for their employment. Well, that's a huge expense.
That's a massive expense, yeah.
So the fact that we've tied ourselves to be in parity of the Singapore barrel price, which to me I just don't understand. I mean, I'm not an academic. I'm not stupid, but why are we tied? Why have we tied ourselves to little pissant Singapore's parity with their barrel price per oil?
Yeah, well, it's like who died and made them king, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, and the problem I see with a lot of this sort of discussion is that, the line that you use, like I'm not an academic or anything, but, we're real people on the ground. We're living it. We got to pay our own fuel. We got to pay our own food. We don't get travel allowances and we don't do this and that. So this is all coming out of your pocket, mostly after tax, unless you have a business that you can, maybe claim your fax on or something.
You've got the benefit of a tax deduction. $2 a litre of fuel is an absolute joke.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So what about there's a lot of people that don't have businesses. So let's just the average everyday Aussie.
Exactly.
We're not politicians. We're not the elite. And these things are hurting the everyday people. And we look at it and go, well, why are we pegged to that price? Why are we doing this? And look, there's I'm sure we could get an explanation that explains whatever they want to tell us, right? It doesn't actually really matter why we're pegged to that price. What matters is the $2 a litre that's at your local bowser.
Yeah, and that's I think you're getting to the kernel of the discussion. Why do we pay? Why do we have to pay such a high price for that very precious fuel?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to ask the question: why are we getting electric vehicles shoved down our throat when they're not really suitable for the average Australian? Sure, electric vehicles are great around the city.
Yeah.
But if you want to tow something, if you want to go a distance, they just don't have the technology or the capacity for it. And I know there's going to be people that say, "Oh, you got it all wrong," blah blah blah. They got electric trucks and such. Yeah, but those big Volvo electric trucks, people don't spend $1 million on a car.
No. Are you talking about the ones that haven't exploded? Or the ones that have?
The ones that haven't exploded, they're still going.
Yeah. And the other thing that I find funny with the EV, which goes back to your comment about our country in terms of the distance. I live on some, not majorly large acreage. We've got some acreage, right? So we've got plenty of spot to put solar panels, right? But in the cities with your more dense living, you don't. And so where the cities can actually utilize an EV, well, they have charging issues, whereas in the regional or the rural or regional, whatever, we got space for solar panels. I could charge, I don't know how many EVs if we wanted to. We can charge the things, but then they don't work for the distances that we've got to drive. So it's this whole catch in this situation where it sounds like a good idea, but in reality, a lot of times it doesn't work for people.
But if you go back a further step, here's a question I'll pose. Why are the EVs being promoted? I mean, this whole net zero argument seems to be pushing us towards to be a customer of China.
Well, that's interesting. So, I mean, let's talk about the. I don't have an answer from the EV thing. I mean, we've probably all got our thoughts, right? But let's rephrase that question in the sense of, what is net zero actually costing us? Because, this is what we're coming back to, the cost of living. What is the point of trying to go to net zero, forgetting if we're, what are we, 1 or 2% of 3% of global emissions? I don't know what we are. We're something in the very low.
We're sitting here, depending on which study you read, it's somewhere between 1.6 and 2.3.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. So call it 2% of global emissions. So even if we halved our emissions, we're going to 1% of global emissions. But anyway, that's just a whole nother thing. But the point is, what is the point of doing that when our people can't afford food, or they can't afford to take their kid to daycare or pick their kid up from school, or they can't afford to get to work, or they can't, you know what I mean? Like, what is the cost? What is the true cost of trying to go to this type of model of net zero or whatever, when in reality, all of us are paying for it some way or the other? We can't afford it, right?
They're writing checks that my great-grandchildren will still be paying for.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Here's another argument. Let's look at it another way. You want to achieve net zero? Yes, that's what we want to achieve. Okay. Leave our coal-fired power stations alone, because we've got the world's best coking coal, which is ideal. What we'll do is we'll stop selling coal to India and China, and that'll cost us about, I think in the 23-24 financial year, we earned about 180 billion of the 400 billion export revenue we got from total mineral resources.
Right.
So a little under half, let's just call it half of our export income comes from the sale of coal. And then on top of that, you've got iron ore and the other precious metals. Coal and iron ore make up the majority of the 400 billion we earn from export revenue to the federal government.
Yeah.
So if we stop selling coal to India and China, now India in 23-24 built 14 new coal power stations. China built 32.
What do we
and
build? None.
we've got 3, and we're trying to close them all.
Yeah. Yeah. The
I mean, who do they for?
power is a big issue. The cost of power, like the flow on effect from that
Cost of power
touches
is
everything.
critical.
Yeah.
It's absolutely critical. Here in Australia, this is, I suppose, communities and civilizations and nations, as they get older, they get more wiser. You look at a country like, say, Norway. They have the cost of power is nominal.
Mm.
It's not even a discussion issue. Here in Australia, with our what have we got? 27 million people. They could afford to give us the coal for free, the power for free.
I mean,
I'm serious.
Imagine what would happen if that was the case. The thing is, one of the things that I really dislike about the advancements, the fast advancement of the cost of power, and we are somewhat isolated here because of our temperature and our climate. But one of the things I hate is that it's essentially a tax on the poorest people, right? And in coal countries, it really goes back to genocide, because the cost of power for those people that can't afford to heat, there's so many more deaths happen from cold temperatures and lack of heating and warmth than just about anything else in these areas. And it's all because they can't even afford power, or they can't afford decent power, right? I mean, our coal is so much different to when you're trying to burn manure within the building itself, right, to heat and to cook on. And there's all those sort of issues that come from the burning of manure in a dwelling where people suffocate and die. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about other ways to power outside of that. But that sort of thing, that's a tax on the most vulnerable in our society, and I think it sucks.
It does suck. If you drew a line and you said, well, how bad is it? Drew a line when the Olympics were in Sydney, and everybody was happy and there was big smiling faces everywhere. And then the circus moved on. I lived in Sydney for a number of years, right in the heart of the city.
Yeah.
And every year it'd break your heart. People, the number of people, the growing number of people that were homeless. And were they drunks? No. Were they drug addicts? No. What happened? Well, I had a job, and then my wife and I got divorced, and there was a redundancy, and I lost my position, and I chewed up my savings, and I just one day woke up and I just had nothing. I'm sleeping in my car now, and I'm 53.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that there's somebody, one of the charity groups has a soup stand. Another one's got a bookstore for library. I can get something to read and I get something to eat. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
Otherwise,
the thing. There's a stigma with the homeless issues, is that, I find people default to one or two positions. Oh, some people choose to be homeless, or they're what you just said, druggos or alcos, and they've just, drunk it all their money away. But that's not the case, right?
No, it's not. It's far from the case.
Yeah.
It's far from the case. I myself bought a little acreage with some retirement funds I had up in the Northern Rivers. And it's a beautiful little village, and I won't name it, but it's a very welcoming village, very welcoming, nice little community. And the thing that I like about it is there's no traffic lights. But having lived there for, say, 3 years, I started to notice the number of homeless people. And being a bit of a sticky beak and one for numbers and stuff, over a period of a fortnight, I made it my business to go and have a look around, and I was sort of part of a couple of little community groups. And on average, we had 28 adults over the age of 50 sleeping rough.
Yeah, right. In a small village.
Now, in a small village. And probably half of the people that were there were happy to share their story, and they'd come from larger urban areas simply because they didn't want to get beaten up anymore.
Yeah.
It was, they felt they were still sleeping rough, but at least they were more safe.
Yeah. Yes,
You
that's
know,
horrible.
that's a terrible indictment on our community. And if you go and talk to any council, talk to any local government council, I'd put a case of beer on it. You'd be lucky to find 1 in 10 councils have any constructive or proactive approach to
No, they
homelessness.
don't know what to do. They don't know what to do, and this is probably where I would differ from some people's opinion in the sense that, the government should do something. And my argument is, well, the government has been along for the ride since we got to this point. Why do we think anything's going to change now if they actually do something about it? Maybe we shouldn't leave it up to the government. Maybe we should do something ourselves, or, the community groups or others as a whole try and get together and do something, because I just don't have any confidence in my society's outcome and my personal future outcome being based around government policy or government decisions. I think that's a really bad thing.
You'd be absolutely stupid if you did. If you relied upon the government, you're going to be heartbroken.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they introduced income tax. When they introduced income tax to Australia, that's the what we call PAYG.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at the initial papers, the argument on the parliamentary floor was, if we pass this bill, the federal government will be able to get some funds off everybody working, and the benefit will be that the federal government will be able to put aside money for people's end of after they finish their working life.
Right, so pension.
And they'll have a thing called the age pension.
Yep.
That was the promise made on the parliamentary floor.
Yeah.
And they shift the goalposts again. Then our friend Mr. Keating, he sensibly had the tenacity and the courage to say, listen, we need to put in place. We don't have the funds. We haven't saved them. The governments before us haven't saved, and we haven't been able to save enough. We're going to have to impose it on the employer to contribute monies to what we could now call the super funds. And here we are today, and the government's trying to figure out how they can get the sticky little fingers on it.
Well, my comment on for you, Gerrard, is that you're a passionate sounding dude with a lot of energy. When are you going to enter politics?
Oh, mate, I've actually been asked by both sides of politics to consider it, but it's not a life for me, because I think I'd be too offensive.
Well, maybe that's just what they need. But
you ever watch that the Senate estimates?
No, I see the odd like snapshot where someone cuts the video footage and makes a thing out of it or whatever for online, but not full ones. No.
If you want an education as to I don't know how people can. I don't know how an Australian can seriously look at themselves in the mirror. Like, you look at Canberra. Canberra is the biggest mistake this nation ever made. There's no benefit to Canberra to anybody. No national, no state capital gets the benefit of a spin-off of spending. It's just this big black hole that's grown and grown and grown.
Yeah.
It doesn't make anything. It doesn't produce anything. All it does is chew up paper and take out tax dollars.
Well, it's not very carbon neutral, is it, if they keep using paper?
Well, mate, they've got those employment agreements they sign. They're coming out. They're going thick and fast. But if you really want to cringe, if you need that, if for some reason you want to punish yourself, sit down in front of the television and watch the Senate estimates. You got these people who elected people who are asking really simple questions, and the people on the committee, our friends in the public service, just look at them and smile and say, "We'll take that on notice, thanks." The lady or the man who's the senator says, "Just a sec. You're telling me that you're number 2 in this department and you can't answer that basic question?"
Yeah.
I'll get on notice, thanks.
Yeah,
feel,
it's pretty crazy. It's definitely pretty crazy. So, all right, well, so you're not going into politics. What can you do outside of politics, Gerard? I don't want to
I
hold you
just,
up all day, but what are you going to do?
no, what, well, I'm involved in a couple of, someone would, we'll just call them community or charity organisations.
Yep.
I think, that's important. That's important. I don't know why it's become unpopular. Maybe people are just too busy.
Well, what if
You
someone
know,
wanted to help? Like, what if someone's listening to this? They listen to you. You got a bit of passion. They're like, look, Gerard's inspired me.
you know,
What can I do in my local community? Where should they start?
St Vincent de Paul,
Yep. Vinny's.
Anglicare,
Yep.
Anglicare, Anglicare is a wonderful organisation. Even I had a mate of mine. We're having a bit of a barbecue at their place, and his daughter had just finished the HSC, was sort of floundering around doing jack shit, and it was driving the parents nuts. And she said, well, I can't get in to do this what I want to study, and I don't want to do that job, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. You tell me what to do. I said, well, why don't you just go up to the aged care just for 2 mornings a week and serve cups of tea and sit down and talk to a couple of lonely old pensioners.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she looked at me as if I had two heads. And she, and then the mother spoke up and said, well, yeah, you could do that. You've got a car. We bought you a car. And she thought about it and she said, oh, okay. Anyway, to her credit, she made the effort.
Yeah.
And she rang me about 2 weeks after she did, like she went up the first time and then she went up again and then the third and the fourth. And the fourth time she did the fourth visit she had up there, she rang me back and she said, I really appreciate that. And she's only a young girl, probably about 19, maybe 19 and a half, going 20. And her perspective shifted.
Yeah, that's good.
Very interesting. And I could even tell by the conversation, the way she expressed herself, she wasn't a kid anymore.
Yeah. So
she was actually,
it's just really good.
And looking at it from that perspective, and if you're on the coast, I know the surf clubs are always looking for adults to help out with, especially the juniors, because you have to put so many adults with the little ones around that environment, around the ocean. They're a great organisation, and they're always looking for adults who are prepared to give them 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on how their club operates. To be involved in those nippers, because I still I remember when I was a kid at primary school, we actually had swimming lessons as part of the curriculum.
Yep.
We went down to the local pool and someone was there. You sort of helped you learn to swim.
Yep.
I don't know why they don't do that anymore, especially with the number of kids that drown.
Yeah.
But
it's a big thing, isn't it? Look,
there's lots of things people can do.
There
Even
is.
if
just do something, right?
Do something. If you said, well, what do I don't know what to do. Well, just go to the council and look in your local directory, what charities there are, and ring a few of them up. Even if you only give them 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
It'll make you feel better.
Just do something for others. I think that's a good high note there, Gerard, after we went through the muddy waters of politics and the New World
Order.
Why
I don't want to get involved in the muddy waters because they just drag you down.
But let's leave it on that. Let's say, if you don't know what, just do something for others and help our community, because we're all in this together, right? We're all got cost of living. We're all in the same country. We're all facing the same things. We're all facing the same $2 of fuel. So let's just do something for others, and we're in it together. I really like it. Thanks, Gerard.
Good on you. Appreciate the opportunity, Chad.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye now.